Firewall was really near the end of sort of the metalwork phase. So this was really an exciting time because I was really getting close to the end of getting all the metalwork done. And so I had done lots of sort of jobs and fabricating, and I was feeling really good about, how I was able to do things and the process and stuff. So this firewall repair was actually ended up being really satisfying to do because it just felt like I was kind of putting together all the things that I had learned and able to do something that I probably wouldn't have been able to do at the beginning of my metalwork and fabricating and stuff like that. And it just felt, it was one of those jobs that you got done, you kind of knew that you did a good job. So the problem with the firewall actually was at the front of the firewall where it kind of sits underneath the gas tank. I did have a lower section that needed to come out, so I pulled that out first. And then the other problem with the firewall was just you've got two little corners down on each side, down by the heater channels, that just will collect water, and those little areas will rust out. So on both sides, I had a couple inches at the bottom, just in the corners that needed to come out. Now you can, if you want to, buy a whole panel and replace the whole panel, but to me that is overkill for something like this. And so that's why I was happy that I repaired it at the time that I did, because maybe at the beginning I would have said, oh, that's too hard, I'm just going to replace the whole panel. But I had, gained enough confidence that I thought, well, I can cut out those corners, I can get that front off, and we can just go from there and maybe fabricate some things. And so I was really happy with the way it turned out. Those little bottom corner pieces were a little bit tricky to kind of like figure out how to fabricate. But again, just a little bit of cardboard and you just start sort of building your pattern. And then once you have your pattern that is right and you think it's good, you're going to just like mock it up with some sheet metal and go back and see if it's going to work. The shape was not overly complicated. It just takes some time. It's really that pattern that you have to kind of get right. And then when you're fabricating it, making your bends right, it is just all in the prep work. And you'll see I finally, like at this point in the metalwork, I finally did invest in like a metal brake, which seems crazy that I didn't have one up until now. But I think looking at this job, I was really like, there were some not overly complicated bends, but I thought, if I have a metal brake, I think this will just make the job a little bit easier. So I got a metal brake and I was happy that I did. I'm happy that I have one now. It's super simple. Like it's not a very heavy duty metal brake. I think I got it at Harbor Freight and it's just one of the small ones, but it did the job for what I needed. And I'm actually really happy that I've got that kind of on my tool bench now for when I need it. Because sometimes up until this point, I'd been using my bench vise, but my bench vise is only about like this big. So now I've got quite a bit longer to make bends with. And I did end up using it, I think, a couple more times, maybe I had a door skin that needed, it was about like that much I needed to bend on. So definitely was worth the investment for me. It's a handy one to have. Now, one thing I'm going to mention too is that when you're dealing with these areas that are like a cavity, like the front firewall, it's not just one piece of sheet metal. It's kind of like two, and then you've got a cavity, and that's where the water gets into, and then you're going to have problems inside that cavity. One thing that you'll want to do, and I'm recommending anyways, just some advice, is before you go to epoxy, or you can do it after epoxy, get yourself some cavity spray and just spray every single cavity that you can possibly get to. There will be, you want to do your A pillar, your B pillar, your C pillar, just anywhere where there's a cavity, up in the doors and stuff like that, front firewall. But if there's a place where you can't really get with your spray gun doing epoxy, you're definitely going to want to think about doing some cavity spray. And there's lots of good products out there. I used Eastwood. I really like them, and it comes with a long hose so you can get way up in there. I did it in my heater channels. I did it everywhere. So just another thing for you to be thinking about. If you've got a cavity that you can't really spray into, get a cavity spray. You're going to want to do that. The last thing too is when I put on that last piece for the firewall, so the front little flat piece, I just did little plug welds. I don't have a spot welding machine. It may be something that I might want to invest in the future, but if you don't have a spot welding machine, you can still do those little plug welds. It's not a big deal. Spot welding machine would definitely be nice, but if you don't have one, you can still do the job. And yeah, we are getting pretty close to the end of metalwork. I think there's a few more jobs to do. I've got a really big job with the front clip and a few other little small jobs, but then we are nearing the end of metalwork, and then we're going to be getting into body work, which is a whole nother can of worms. So stay tuned. We've still got lots of road left to go, and I hope you're enjoying it.